Sorry, you once again caught me peering forward in time. Because I'm so excited about the sludge pump. That's actually not even a lie. I really like the sludge pump. What else is there? The Drac. Point is, third generation of weapons is pretty banging, as is exemplified no better than by the Hurricane. Of course, welcome back to Overclock Showcase. If you watched until the end of the last episode, you would know that this week we are covering counterburster missiles for the Hurricane. It is 11:38 in the morning, not an early hour necessarily, but a necessary hour because we're at that point, especially for the United Kingdom, where it's dark by 4 fucking PM. So it's, you've got to take advantage of daylight when you can. So I'm recording now. It's not going to make me necessarily quieter, but maybe still a bit more careful. We'll see. The point is, counterburster missiles, an infamous overclock of sorts, I think. I certainly imagine a lot of people who have a long-term relationship with the game and have been around since before seasons, or around seasons and were paying attention to when Season 1 was a thing and was happening, would understand why counterburster missiles has a bit of notoriety to it. I think I'll sort of explain those things as we sort of get into the actual gameplay. For now, just to explain what this is, it's basically Yondu's arrow, except you have hundreds of them. So it says that missiles penetrate enemies and increase missile maneuverability. The best way to explain it, if you aren't familiar with counterburster missiles, is each missile can pierce and re-enter the same enemy multiple times. I actually very much so should bring up some information, because I'm sure that Coil.gg, fantastic website, has the exact number of re-entries. So yeah, it allows each rocket to do, what does it say? Each missile can damage up to 9 enemies. Let's also interpret that as a maximum of 9 hits on the same enemy, which factors in both direct and area damage. That's 22 times 9, which is 202, I think. Wait, hold on. 20 times 9 is 180. 2 times 9. So, sorry. 198. Not 202. I was 4 off. 198 damage per rocket. So yeah, these things can easily kill grunts. They can actually kill slashers with 1 rocket. This is of course because of the build that I'm taking here. So of course, the idea behind Overclock Showcase are you make the most distinct builds possible for the Overclock. Counterburster missiles does a very nice job of being a very good overclock for either thing that you would like to do. Single target or crowd control, crowd clearing. You can kind of lump them in together. It's actually better at crowd clearing than crowd control specifically, but we'll get into that with the second build. So where I really had to hang up the cape, as it were, was to not take stun in tier 5 for the single target one. The stun is more beneficial to the crowd clearing build than it is to this one. It's still kind of the better option on both, but I wanted a chance to use nitroglycerin compound. I don't know when else I'm ever going to use nitroglycerin, so I think it was fair to just take the opportunity. So basically, building counterburster for single target, I think there are reasons why you could easily take ammo and be okay with it, because what counterbursters comes down to is learning how many rockets you need to shoot that can kill a single enemy. And that sounds obvious, but what I mean is, with how they work, they're not going to be killing, especially bigger targets, they're not going to be killing them instantly, okay? So what you're not meant to do is, you're not meant to fire until the enemy dies. You're meant to fire the number of rockets that you need to kill it, stop firing, and make sure they stay hitting that enemy until it dies. For example, with this, it's literally going to be 5 for a Praetorian. Actually, in the context of the whole build, 4, because we'd use this on them first. So yeah, that probably to sort of, in a roundabout way, facilitate a somewhat better single target damage build than just sort of going at it head first. Damage in tier 1, armor breaking in tier 2, I'll explain this in a moment. Fire rate in tier 3 helps us get the number of missiles that we need to kill an enemy out quicker. Although I have taken fire rate in both builds, I don't think that's essential. I think you could potentially take magazine size in the AoE build just to get a bit more ammo. AoE damage in tier 4, which I will also have to explain. And nitroglycerin compound here, which obviously gives us more damage the longer they're in the air. It's very low. It's literally 1 AoE damage per second they're in the air, but we do gain something from that. So it's AoE damage, so Zip Fuel adding a bit more AoE damage is kind of adding onto that, and means we don't have to rely on hitting weak points, which is something that it can hit weak points, and we probably will have the highest chance of hitting weak points in an elimination, which is going to be the first mission anyway, but still, I find that just straight up area damage is going to enhance the damage of every single hit. And also, this is to help nitroglycerin. We're not taking anti-tank missiles for the armor breaking, we're taking it to not take bigger jet engine, which is absolutely the better option most of the time with plasma bursters. And if you're going for a really crazy nitroglycerin build, you do actually want bigger jet engine, because you can basically just wave the missiles around until they build up a lot of damage and then just send them down on an enemy. I think that's kind of gay. And by gay, I mean in a bad way. No, you know what I mean. I love homosexuals. And basically, what this means is the missiles are slower. I think they are faster anyway. No, they have increased maneuverability. Their projectile velocity actually seems to be lower than normal. Yeah, so this means they actually move relatively slowly. They also pass in and out of enemies a bit slower than they would if we did take bigger jet engine. And that also gives more time for nitroglycerin to build up damage. Now, what we don't have here is the ability to kill lots of things very quickly or disrupt them at all. So nitroglycerin I do think is beneficial for this build, but missing out on that stun is pretty damning. So that's where this thing comes in. It's ultramagnetic coils. I know. Harry loves UMC. Listen, extremely ultra efficient AoE damage and crowd control with easy to apply disruption in the form of the fear. I don't think there's any better option here than this. It really facilitates all of the weaknesses of this version of plasma burst missiles. Suffice to say, I think this is a fairly niche way of using it. I think the other thing I'm going to show you, or even if you just want to build it like something like this, no, not like that. This, for example, is going to cover so many bases, but I'm going for something a bit more niche, so I think I need something sort of, you know, like a trump card to help facilitate that. I don't like using the term trump card anymore. That says something about me. Anyway, so for this exact one, I've got a lovely double XP elimination here with some robots added onto it. So we'll see how that goes. I think it's going to go quite well. So I've already mentioned how it's something of a notorious overclock for people who are in the know. Unlike something like Fatboy, where Fatboy, the legend of Fatboy, comes into the periphery of anyone who starts playing Deep Rock. Plasma Burst missiles, you might not know the full story. It was obviously in Season 1 as part of the new primary weapons being added to the game. And, you know, it was one of the Hurricane's overclocks, and it was, by the way, extremely powerful. It was ridiculously strong. It was one of the strongest things we've ever seen in the game by far. And I think that was basically a factor, or a combination of factors, on pretty much every front of the overclock. It just did way more damage than it does now. I think it had more ammo than it does now. Just all these things. It was just better in every single way. And it was so beyond overpowered that it didn't even get out of the sort of experimental branch in that state. Plasma Buster Missiles was nerfed into the ground before it actually made it to the game officially, which was tragic because it's such a fun idea that they basically just destroyed it. And I kind of always take issue when this kind of thing happens. I think it's really disappointing when they do this, because especially because Ghost Ship, they have their finger on the pulse. They know when they've made something unfun. I think it's kind of a case of they felt the need to nerf it, which was probably justified, but they were really put off from going back to tinker with it again, which was a mistake because it remained underpowered for 90% of its lifetime, up until I think either Season 4 or the maintenance update in November 2024. This thing was actually hilariously weak. And there's actually a very simple reason why. Oh, hi. It actually would have been pretty much this effective against patrol bots, by the way, even in its weak state, because its weakness was fairly specific. It was weak because, basically, the missiles would get destroyed when they hit terrain. That's not abnormal, they do that currently, but what they changed is the fact that the missiles, they implemented some code that meant that the missiles don't disappear, don't get destroyed by hitting terrain, as long as they are currently hitting an enemy, which was so essential for actually being able to do anything against ground-based enemies, especially hordes of grunts. You could still kind of use it against bigger targets, which is kind of what it's more suited to anyway, but grunts, for example, were basically hell to use it against, which is not really what you want. You want grunts to be kind of the easiest thing for your weapon to fight, really. Obviously, it's not really what we're using it for in this build, so don't worry about that. The point was, it was suffering from a very niche issue, but it was still affecting it drastically. And as soon as that issue was resolved, it became amazing again. Well, I shouldn't say amazing. It's probably never going to reach the same heights that it did way back when, but it is very good. This is a very fun and strong overclock, and I think fun in possibly one of the greater ways of any overclock, because it genuinely changes the way you use the weapon so much that it's an entirely new playstyle to learn, and it makes it rewarding and fun and strong at the same time. So it's definitely something to behold. It shows that they had such a strong concept and execution from the get-go. They just needed to get the numbers right, basically, on how strong the thing was meant to be. But yeah, that's kind of the history of Plasma Burster missiles. Those of you who are interested, I'm going to try and save my voice for a bit, so I'm going to cut to the next bit of combat. Yeah, you will notice that this build specifically is a little bit finicky against things like grunts. They often will get close to me if I try and use it against them, which is why I'm mostly using the coil gun. But that's because, as great as I think this overclock is, I do think it gets so much more value up the stun in tier 5 than anything else. I will say, what it has I don't necessarily mind is the fact that it's kind of really bad with fire. Napalm, whatever it is in tier 5. It actually is not a good idea at all, and I'd say it's the only one where that's definitively the case. Even like jet fuel homebrew is actually not that bad of an idea with fire, for certain specific reasons. But you will see certain things like that 3 missiles is enough to kill that guy. How many was that? I don't know, like 6 missiles for that menace. That's easily enough. Probably needs like 4, maybe even 3, to be honest. Spreader. I don't know if you can do it in one with a spreader. I think you definitely can if you use the coil gun on it first. Oh, look at that, actually. Yeah, spreader maybe like 3, or coil gun first and then 2 shots. But yeah, this is where you do gain a lot from the stun. And it's not like I won't be killing single targets with the second build at all. But I really just wanted an opportunity to use nitroglycerin. I'm not saying it's actually the best way to do single target with Plasma Bursters. I just think it's sort of like, this is a place where nitroglycerin compound is actually has some value, so I might as well show you. Where it does also have value, by the way, is also, I don't think I used it, but cluster charges, you can definitely use nitroglycerin compound because that makes the rockets move so slowly, and they deal a very like powerful amount of AoE damage spread out across the clustered missiles. The nitroglycerin will have a noticeable effect. It's just, once again, the stun and the fire are just so much more effective there. Like, fire is, you don't even need it on cluster charges really, but it does let you one-shot grunts, so I think it's kind of worthwhile. Anyway, we've got our first dreadnought here. I'm hoping this is actually going to be a walk in the park. I actually haven't used this on dreadnoughts before. I've kind of really stripped back my sort of practicing for these videos, especially when it's for an overclock that I generally know pretty well. So this was about 6 rockets here. So I'm sort of wondering how many you would need to get through the dreadnought shell. So I'm about 3 now. So it looks like it's going to be about 10 actually. and then for one segment of its, so that was about 6, I think. About 3 more. About 9. So about 8 rockets for a segment of health as well. This is factoring in having shot it with the coil gun first though, so you're putting up the number of missiles by 1 or 2. So here I've already kind of done a lot of damage, so I'm putting about 5, I think, for the shield here. And I'm going to pop out 9. 9. That's probably not exactly 9. I'm not being too accurate. Why did I'm just remembering I had a dream about there being... I don't even know if I want to talk about this, but it's such an interesting and stupid dream. I guess I might as well. Which was that I was like... I guess I got home after work or something, and there were like... fucking hell. There were Crassus detonators on my road, like 3 of them, and then they blew up and set my house on fire. So, there you go, that's what happens when you play as much Deep Rock as I have. You might think that's kind of cool, and it is kind of cool, but it's not cool when you realise that dreams are very effective at convincing you they're real until like the last second. I'm going to do that, and then we're going to finish the guy off. Busters. That, I think, might be enough to kill it. Probably not. Let's give it 2 more. 1 more. Oh, I've let my health dwindle greatly. So that's what happens to Plasma Busters though as well. You start focusing on an enemy, and you have sort of like a swarm of missiles around you, and you can start to, like, it's difficult to pay attention to everything, or also keeping the missiles trained on an enemy. Anyway, I'm going to show you now. I'm going to use the salute bug as a demonstration. When he's not floating, because that's the opposite of what I want. But the fact of how the missiles work in terms of them not hitting the ground as long as they're hitting an enemy. So these would probably be very easily hitting the ground and then destroying themselves in the process before that change was made. So thank God for that, basically. Yeah, so where I find UMC really helpful here with its fear and the electrocution, it just keeps crowds in like just very well in check, which just allows me to do whatever I want to the rest of them. Right, so shell back, probably about 4, I think, or maybe a bit more. Anyway, so yeah, so Praetorian, that's going to be 4, I think. Yeah. It was almost on full health as well. I would usually use the Coil on it first, and that would be enough to make it 4 shots as well to kill it. But that was good enough. I think that's a good enough demonstration of how this thing operates against the famous Praetorian. Yeah. Okay, so what we just experienced there, getting shot by that patrol bot, not something that you would necessarily avoid by having the stun, because the patrol bots can't get stunned. But I think it's definitely where this overclock also is better for mouse users, because you can, I feel like you can just more easily keep your cursor, your crosshair trained on a single enemy, even when they move around a lot. It's not the easiest thing with a joystick. I'm sorry, it's just not. I think I'm always going to prefer the feel of a controller. I think even when I get a PC, I'm going to endeavour to use a controller in every game that allows it, to be honest. Which I think will include, obviously will include Deep Rock. Well, okay, when I get a PC, it's not going to absolve the Xbox necessarily. I would still use my Xbox, I think, for everything I would use it for. PC is really going to basically be a future-proofing kind of thing, hopefully. So, obviously that includes Rogue Core, which I think does have controller support. I don't think it has automatic, like, button binds for controller, but I think it does allow for that. Okay. Actually, no, Bosco, you can attack. Whoa! What the hell? Okay, I wanted to see how pure the 4 shots is, because I've usually done it with a coil gun shot first, so that's 4 rockets. Okay. Is 1 rocket now enough? I think I might have... Okay. I think 5 can still do it, so I think that's really just a case of weird little... Maybe a miss here or there. Maybe I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. I think 5 would still be enough, though, in most cases. So as far as I know, by the way, I think the rockets, you can track them whenever you've held on Hurricane when you're reloading, but I think that if you whip out a different weapon. But what I do think happens, I'm pretty sure that they stay attacking a single enemy even when you switch weapons. So hold on, let's see if it actually works against this guy anyway. Okay. Right. Well, that's not very helpful. I did suspect that might happen though. What I'm saying is, I'm actually not sure if the Plasma Bursters continue to hit the same enemy, even when you switch weapons. I'm not sure. It's probably the only thing that I don't quite know for sure about this overclock, so I'm going to try and establish that. Ooh! Ooh! An omen. I'm not going to say no to that. Right. Good. Okay. I would love to do an omen, actually. Oh, man. Right. Shit. Okay, cool. Anyway, I'm gonna get this omen up and running. Alright, it's time to run that experiment again. Okay, that's a pretty quick no. Anyway, so yeah, omen. We've got drone replicator as well. So I don't really want to go for first. Probably not the base. Probably the drone replicator if possible. I don't think I'm going to get hit from here. I might actually get hit from here. I'm not sure. Drone replicator is going to be easy to destroy. Okay, we're going to have to drop a shield. Fuck it. It's going to go in a moment. Luckily, gunner, high explosion resistance. It looks to me like the rockets actually deal like multiple instances of damage at once to the drones, which I think is not unheard of. I think that also happens with the. Also, that's not enough. I might just fucking brute force this, actually. I'll just jump over the plasma. But I think this also happens with, okay. I see what happened there, and I don't appreciate it. Nope, I don't appreciate this at all. This is actually not very nice. I mean, I'm so used to not having to jump over that stuff, so it's not going to come to me naturally. But the point is, what I'm saying is, I think the same thing there happens with it's totally flying rocks on the Hearthstone fight, which we're not going to be doing. I don't think. I don't know why I would necessarily do an escort duty. I kind of want the next mission to be relatively short, but maybe. Maybe. But yeah, so where maybe an omen is the kind of thing where it's not like too well suited to is because the omen is not one entity. It sees three, for each segment it sees three sort of openings that are their own entities with like a shared health bar. So it doesn't know to find and hit those vents just because you're aiming at the omen. And nor should it. It's not meant to be smart. That's the kind of thing that smart falls for. that looks like a big chunk of nitro I should be mining. Or, you know, getting Bosco to mine. Anyway, so this is one of those rare instances where I am going to be doing the secondary objective. So you'll have to allow for that. Or I'll have to allow for that. Don't worry. You won't. Don't worry. So I just shot down a gunk seed from up there, and it rolled down, bounced off of that, and landed in here. Amazing! Stupendous! Oh, I've got some fellas coming in, such as the grabber from the black phone. Ooh. There we go. In time, it kills. What's that then? Torian? More like Preforian. I need 4 rockets to kill it. There we go. I mean, Boss could help there too, really, didn't he? Let's be honest. Let's be honest. Lovely. But yeah, before they made that change where it would pass through terrain as long as it's hitting an enemy, you would basically have to be like on an exact horizontal plane. And even then, because of like the random course it kind of takes, it could end up going above the enemy and then going down through them and then hitting terrain anyway. So it really was kind of fucked. So it's why I'm glad that what they decided to do is basically make a change that kind of betrays, first of all, it betrays physics, and I guess betrays the fact that nothing else really does break the game's physics in that way. It's like, fuck it, this overclock needs to break the game's physics to work in the way that it just should for both balancing and just fun reasons. So we're just gonna have to do it. And I'm not saying Ghost Ship are necessarily unique in this regard, but I do like that they are willing to do that on occasion. Be like, well, fuck it, we kind of need to break our own rules here because, and I think that is, to me, the way in which they're flexible. I think Ghost Ship, they've always seemed to pride themselves on being very flexible, and I think they are in terms of like mindset and approach. The only reason that I kind of have always not necessarily fully agreed with them is that I don't think they have the actual speed of production to be super flexible. But I do still think they have this sort of insular sort of view of themselves in that they feel like they're pumping stuff out very quickly because they're always working. I still kind of feel like this is the thing, and I don't think they would disagree. I think it's why you see them often getting carried away with themselves and admitting to that is because their workflow is very internal. It's feedback based, but in terms of the speed at which they do things, it's very much so like we take our time to make sure things are ready, and we also don't mind making decisions that, you know, change direction mid-development that might slow things down, because we're being very flexible. So, but on the surface, it doesn't look flexible because it takes a long time for changes to be made. Basically, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that is a criticism of Ghost Ship. I have criticisms of them. I still do. I think I always will, and I think the reason why I'm okay with sort of doing what I'm doing right now is because, as in talking about them, is because I don't think I would want to make a dedicated video to that kind of thing anyway. I don't think that's very, not that it would necessarily be mean-spirited, because I would make it so that it's not, but it still kind of would be in its very essence of being a video that I'd make, you know? So I'd rather just say things here that I kind of feel, which is like, things that aren't going to change is the fact that I don't think Deep Rock should have been left without major updates for this long, straight up. I don't think that, even if Rocore justifies it in terms of like, oh, this game is fantastic, I still don't think it justifies it, because I think Deep Rock deserves to have continued updates, and not to have been left on the back burner for this long. I will simply probably never agree with them on that front. I will freely and want to be able to admit that Rocore is great, and I think it will be, but it's not going to change the fact that even if I think it justifies leaving Deep Rock, I will not be happy about the specific fact that Deep Rock has been left on the back burner. does that mean that I would have chosen against making roll call? Well, actually, yeah, it does. What I would have chosen if I had my way, as if, and not that I should have my way over anyone else, but roll call would be something happening much later, and would not inherently be a roguelite either. It would simply be a spin-off and or sequel to Deep Rock. Yeah, they would have started making after maybe season 8 or so. Season 8 would have been a sort of closer for Deep Rock. As in, I would have actually brought Deep Rock's development to a satisfying conclusion before making roll call. This is also something else. This is not criticism. It's just something I want to be the case anyway. I want Ghost Ship to be making roll call with the underlying understanding that it could be a gameplay platform to use for more than just a roguelike genre experience. I'm not saying replicate DRG's missions and just put them in roll call. I'm saying something even more specific than that. I think they should not have roll call's gameplay system be fleshed out as much as it is to only be used for one genre of game. I think roll call can be more than just a Deep Rock roguelite as far as its place in Deep Rock goes. I think it can be the actual future of the franchise. Not literally treated like a sequel in terms of story, but treated like a sequel in terms of mechanics and features that they want to implement. That's kind of my take on what roll call could be. I don't think it has to just be a roguelike Deep Rock game. And I think what I'm saying is, if I were to nail it down to something more specific, I would say something like a story-ish mode, a campaign, like sort of more structured levels that are built using the structures that they have in roll call and whatnot. They have a bit more of a narrative flair to them, possibly even scripted events. And that could even be DLC, like packaged story DLC. I think that's kind of somewhere I would think about going with roll call if I was them. At the very least, not just replicating DRG's thing. Like, for example, a very different kind of roguelite mode, I guess, would be making an endless mode that still possibly uses the roguelite mechanics they've made, but it's like, it's a very different sort of context for why you're doing what you're doing. Because I think that's something that they can potentially do better than how they did it with Deep Rock, which is make the game more of a platform for different experiences than just like, this is just a horde shooter with sort of a couple mission variations, right? We'll see. I don't really know what their plans. Obviously, you know, there's the idea of an endless mode, which I think that's going to happen. And the reason why I think an endless mode is inevitable, and I actually want to play RoboQuest endless mode now, which is good because that is a great endless mode, except for one major flaw. But I think an endless mode for roll call will absolutely happen because it's been in their heads for so long. An endless mode. They've acknowledged the idea of an endless mode like pretty much since the game was announced. I'm not saying that they've been planning it directly, but they still had a lot of time to stew on it. Specifically, the people who would be making the big decisions as far as how that would work, like Mike and Mikkel, had loads of time for it to at least be in their minds. Also, look at that breed. I had put out way too many rockets for that thing, but I guess we can take some of them over to this breed nexus. I've finally done the kind of thing when you build up like a swarm of rockets that can actually just fly around and deal damage to anything they touch, kind of thing. Which is the, I think is the core concept behind Plants vs. when it comes down to it. Not to divulge from the thrilling discussion about the future of the Deep Rock Galactic franchise. Right. Oh, I still have not killed that thing. What the hell? Anyway, so this is probably going to... I'm feeling like it's going to be the twins, to be honest. And I need to kind of... I need health, really. I can't really justify resupply. But yeah, I do think an endless mode is inevitable. What I'm saying is I kind of want roll call to be more than just a roguelike power fantasy sort of derivative of Deep Rock. It's just like this game is just Deep Rock, but with some different weapons and sort of abilities, and the capability for you to turn into an absolute like monster killing machine just through like upgrades and stuff. I love that stuff, but I think there can be a more rich experience through Rogue Core than that, which I think is going to be like unlocking different parts of, you know, the map and Hive Guard, different parts of the map, and sort of like uncovering what happened to the core, like just grey out what the core actually is, like a more intentioned and sort of pseudo, because obviously Deep Rock operates on a pseudo narrative, but a pseudo narratively satisfying final boss of sorts, which is like, you know, actually going to the core of Hoxie's properly at some point, not just like the core biome, but the core itself, which could still be, by the way, could still be a biome where it's like still a randomly generated cave, but at some point in the cave there is a big, very clearly slightly curved wall that represents the wall of the actual core. So it could be randomly generated location still, just with that somewhere in it that represents the fact that it is like the end of the line. And just whenever, you know, you do it again, you're just approaching the core from a different angle, basically. I don't think it's hard to fit in with the idea, because that's kind of speaking to the reason why, what I think should be the reason why they are having multiple different runs. But so far what we've seen is that the multiple different runs and facilities, or as it were, Rogue Core is more so just like the difficulties. And I guess that would make it, they could still keep that up, but what that would mean is, I guess the hardest difficulty would be a true going to the core itself expedition. And then, but you know, maybe this thing I'm talking about is a bit later on in the life cycle of the game, and that what actually happens in that is it plays out like a normal run up until you get to that final core biome, and then it's a more structured scenario when you enter the core, and there's like this boss fight. It's either with a sort of basically a jacked up Hearthstone kind of thing, or maybe there's something even weirder in there, like some weird actual, like a brain basically would be one option, or like some just weird entity that's controlling Hoxies. I don't know. I still think the pseudo narrative and that the guy and the potential of the Gaia theory stuff is still very tantalizing to me, which I think just shows how effective this game's sort of smatterings of lore are, that they do inspire so much and make me so like, make me still want so much out of it. Yeah, basically I just think Rogue Core can be more than just a Deep Rock roguelike, you know? I think it can be the future. I'm not saying Deep Rock shouldn't get Season 6, I think it should, but I kind of think it should also stop there. Unless, obviously, the only reason I wouldn't want Season 6 is if the idea of getting new weapons in Deep Rock at some point again is valid, in which case you would kind of have to allow for Season 7 and 8, or the penultimate, you know, big dick move, which is do Season 6, and then at some point later down the line, somehow pull together the, you know, the juice required to basically put out one update that adds the 4th generation of weapons in one go. That'd be insane. That's not going to happen, but can you imagine? And the only reason I'm bringing up the idea of new weapons in Deep Rock now, because it sounds kind of ridiculous, I think, certainly if you watch us a lot, if you watch Battle Vision a lot, or you're just sort of in the know, you probably understand that new weapons in Deep Rock is a, you know, a kind of ridiculous endeavor for Ghost Ship. They entail so much work and sort of detail and complexity that make them worth the trouble. They make them so like rich and fulfilling as elements of this game, but it is a lot of work. But in a recent dev stream that Mike was on, the lead game designer of both Deep Rock and Rogue Core, he talked about the fact that it is actually, this wasn't him like teasing anything like specifically, this wasn't him being like, oh, we're making new guns for Deep Rock, but he did say fairly outwardly that seeing Rogue Core as a testing bed for new Deep Rock weapons is not inappropriate. Like that is a fair thing to, because it's already, he said it has given them ideas, so like they can see how they could potentially bring these over, even just as they are, like verbatim, bring this gun over as the template, as, you know, the unupgraded version of a new Deep Rock gun, which I would love. I would honestly, if like 6 out of 8 of like the new weapons of another generation of Deep Rock weapons are just Rogue Core as their template. That's fine, because you're still going to get so much out of them in terms of identity and complexity and variety that is specific to Deep Rock because of the upgrade tree and the overclock tree and even just the cosmetic system that Deep Rock has. It's like, yeah, it would still be perfectly fine. There's so many I would love. Like, I think the shock pistol would be awesome. I really like that thing. I don't know what it's actually called. It might be called the Shock Striker. I'm not sure. It's basically a Tesla pistol. So it charges up and shoots a bolt of electricity that I think both the damage and the amount of arcing it does is based on how much you charge it. Or it might just be damage. But either way, that's like an awesome, I think, gunner. No, not gunner. Driller secondary, I think. I think I might genuinely have mentioned in the last... Oh, it might have been the last dev diary, actually, where I talked about the Hammercaster from Rogue Core as a like, gunner primary. And it's like, this is the gunner primary that he would hold like a rifle. But it's still in keeping with the identity of gunner primaries. It's like a big, heavy munitions weapon. You know, it's like a heavy weapon, but it still has more of a rifle approach to how he operates it. I think it would be really cool. I think there was something similar for someone else. Oh yeah, I guess that's my... Okay, that's another idea, don't worry. But yeah, I still think there's like a lot of potential there. I would not be opposed to a lot of that kind of thing. There are some that you don't necessarily need to bring over. There's something I've seen in Rogue Core recently, which is like a really high fire rate SMG. It's just like an Uzi, basically. And it's like, it's cool, but we have enough of what that weapon's DNA is already in Deep Rock, where it doesn't really have much of a place. Like, you probably wouldn't put it on Gunner or Driller anyway, and then Engineer has a stubby, and Scout has a suit corps. Anyway, so that was the first, that was the first mission with Planter Buster Missiles. Definitely took a while, actually, didn't it? But that was good. I hope you saw how it's like very strong against a variety of targets, and that just get a little bit of crowd control in there, and you've got something really solid. Like, I think you could probably use Magic Bullet Bulldog here, and be okay, basically. But let's see what's going to be in store for the next one. I did mention, obviously, the idea of doing an escort duty. I don't want to do that. I'm going to get greedy. I'm just going to do this. But yeah, so the next build is actually using Plasma Bursters for what I typically don't prefer to use it for. But on paper, what I've noticed, actually I am using nano missiles, is the seemingly far more ammo efficient, and also it's better than I realised. I used to view Plasma Burster missiles as primarily single target, but still fairly decent AoE. I think it's a bit more of an equal playing field. But yeah, so this is the AoE style build. So we got AoE size in tier 1. I think this actually helps more than I realised. I kind of, at one point, thought it maybe didn't, and I would have taken max ammo. But no, it's actually really good. Hold on, sorry. Leaving that in. And we have bigger jet engine as well. I think being able to sort of manipulate the movement of missiles here is actually a lot more valuable. Being able to drag them through a horde of enemies very quickly, I think it's very nice. Nano missiles is just more ammo, and we don't need to put out the number of missiles that we need to end a fight as quickly as we do with the single target version. Zip fuel is obvious, and I've already talked about stun. Stun is so useful here. And so basically what we have here, despite the fact that we're not even taking ammo in tier 1, is something that can effectively handle pretty much everything with less health than a Warden. So Wardens and Menaces are kind of this threshold that I think are like, that are slightly less health than Praetorians, but obviously more health than all of the more generic enemies. We use this against literally everything below them. That includes Stingtails and Spreaders, most Mactera types. And so what we have in tow is this little weirdo. So this is the Burt with experimental rounds and not with ammo, which is probably surprising. Experimental rounds decreases your ammo by quite a bit because it decreases your ammo and magazine size. What you gain is a lot of damage, not as much as lead spray, but you also have the weapon's base accuracy, which is quite high. So it really is a range game, and I think it actually wins. I think experimental round is a lot better than people give it credit for. I think having that amount of damage at that range is really valuable. But what I wanted to do was really just take advantage of how ammo efficient this thing is, so that I have a long range just deletion tool for when I can get my hands on an enemy weak point, basically, and be accurate about it. Because where even when it comes to being at close range, you can't really rely on lead spray to hit an enemy weak point reliably. So I think it wins the sort of weak point game in that sense, and luckily the burst weak point multiplier is 40%, which is very high, so I think it is kind of beating out lead spray there when you hit a full burst to a weak point. So, got damage, got reload speed, got damage, got weak point, got stun. Simple, effective, very high damage, accurate weak point machine with our ultra efficient, just everything killer except, you know, tanky enemies thing here. Even though it can. Praetorians, it can kill Praetorians and anything weaker. I really just meant we would mainly use it on things weaker than Praetorians and Wardens and Menaces. But we can still use it on them just fine. It's so ammo efficient. So let's just get into it and see if my claims hold true. But sometimes they don't. Sometimes they fall apart. And that's okay. Ugh. Yeah, at this point, I'm kind of feeling like I've expended all of my whatever I would, you know, rant about. So I could rant about Halo, but obviously the moment's passed because of when this is coming out. But obviously, Halo Campaign Evolved was revealed just the other day, like 3 days ago. I'm recording this. Oh, look at that. Oh, shit. See, I can kill that. There we go. There we go. My beloved. Right, so something like the breeder there. I need to be really confident. If I'm going to use the bird against it, I need to be confident that I'm going to hit that weak point and not miss, basically. Yeah, even Stingtails and Spreaders, we're mainly going to be using the Hurricane against them. You might see me shoot them with like my Burt to finish them off, but for the most part, the approach is fairly well defined. You see all that? That's the power of that's the power of the stun, baby. The stun, baby. I don't know what the stun baby is, and I don't want to know, but it's powerful. But yeah, this should be I'm actually not going to talk about Halo. I can't be bothered. I should at least very much so. I should at least say that I am not like don't have a problem with what they're doing. I'm not one of those people. I actually like the look of it, but I can't be bothered to talk about it. Huh. I've never had that weak point that open to me. Anyway, yeah, you can see where the experiment is here, because the Burt is going to run out. It's going to run out of ammo quickly. It just does. I don't think experimental rounds is great necessarily. I just think it's kind of a funny thing to use in this context. Okay.
Gotta wait for the recharge.
Well, I guess very soon, probably not today, it's the 27th day of October, but there should be a dev diary very soon, which I think is going to be important, because I think, you know, the October dev diary, I don't, you know, obviously with this coming out, I don't know what's being said at this point about Roku and what might be happening, but I think at this point, you know, late October, it's time to start hearing about when it might actually come out, I think, and whether or not it's actually going to come out this year. Which I have thoughts on. I guess there's not much point talking about that in case, you know, things have been revealed. But I should say that if it gets delayed, I actually will not have a problem with it at all, because Rocore is kind of the impetus behind getting a PC when I do, basically. I don't need a PC yet, but I will need it for Rocore. I will use it for way more than that, but it's still kind of like, you know, the it's almost like the alarm clock for when I would, right? That kind of thing. So if it's later, if it's like some point in, like, you know, the first quarter of next year, for example, I actually won't have a problem with that, because it just gives me more time to sort of ruminate on things and just take my time with my decisions, which I kind of want, actually. But obviously I don't want it to be delayed. I think it should come out soon. I think it's probably going to be more likely to be a December thing than November. I think the expectation is November, because that's when it was announced, and that's when all of these sort of when all of the Ghost Ship on the Horizon streams have happened, that kind of thing. But I think it's looking to be more likely to be December. But the reason where I would take issue with a delay is not necessarily baked into the fact that, oh, they've already delayed it once, so we're going to do it again. It would be basically the fact that it is an early access game. What we've seen looks very playable. The reason that you're if the game is delayed, the reason you're holding out is because there's a confidence issue here. Because you know that it's not going to be feature complete, you know that it's still going to be a lot of stuff that is subject to change, which means that you clearly think there is something quite wrong that you're not happy about, and I would find that concerning. That to me is the only reason why you would delay at this point. Because the game is very playable from everything that we've seen in Hells. So yeah, I would actually take issue with a delay, because I think it would show like a weird lack of confidence that I wouldn't find very reassuring, because it's playable. It's obviously not going to be feature complete on an early access launch, so why hold out at all, basically? Also, we don't know that. That's a conjecture based on a hypothetical that they do delay the game. I don't think they're going to, but it could happen. It's feeling more likely, given that even, you know, the fourth playtest that is supposedly going to happen still hasn't happened yet. I'm sure it's happened by the time this has come out, but, you know, the fact that that playtest is going to be a November thing, I think just it's been clear for a while that Rogue Core is a sort of slower ordeal than Ghost Ship expected, and I think that's not surprising when you look at the very first announcement. The fact that they thought it was going to come out like the year, like literally they thought it was going to come out within a year of when they announced it. I think that was very ambitious. I'm not surprised that it got pushed back, you know, by a year from that. I think that was a ridiculously high margin to meet, that they never could have put out something that is satisfactorily distinct from Deep Rock in that amount of time. But the fact that they had to do that, and now also sort of like seems like playtests taking longer to get ready, there is a sort of, it does feel like it's sort of moving along slower than perhaps they would like. I'm sure they want it to go faster than it's going. At the same time, I genuinely have nothing but good things to say about what I've seen from it. I think it looks like a ton of fun. There's a lot of variety there, even from an early access launch. There's a lot of variety and polish there, even from especially for an early access launch state. I think it looks very intentioned. There's a lot of decisions that have been made already about the systems that can be in place at launch, for upgrades and potentially progressions, like meta progression as well. They really do seem to be taking to heart that a stronger foundation is something that should be built for Rogue Core. Right, I need Nitra quite badly, and all this goo is actually really annoying. So there's the idea of just getting out of the mission before I need a resupply, but I don't think that's going to happen. So this is what I love, though. 2 rockets is enough just condensed power to take care of a lot of different sized hordes of grunts. Up to 10, probably even a bit more. 2 rockets is going to be enough. and that is because of the explosion radius. You know, the explosions trigger every time they hit an enemy, but it's going to affect more than just that enemy, especially with the explosion radius upgrade. So I think you kind of have a good thing going as far as that goes. Okay, some nitro over there that I've had Bosco in mind at some point. I'll have to go and hoover that up. It's actually going a bit longer than I would have liked this recording. Okay, fine. I am merely a vessel for fate.
Mine. Multi-move. Loud and clear. Got no flares ready.
Right, but we'll get that one. Because we are definitely going a little bit nitro scarce on this one. So I'm going to speed things up a bit. I mean, I did boast about this build's ammo efficiency before I started the mission, so this is my penance for that, I think. Or, you know, the test. Oh, I actually have Vampire. I usually don't run Vampire on Gunner. I just find I don't need it. Because Gunner is, you know, that good. But nice to know. This is where I think the stun and the AoE radius really come in, like, and work well together. Because you end up stunning way more enemies than you are dealing like your most condensed damage to. So, which makes it, I think, a lot more effective against hordes than you would probably predict, even if you like made a very you know, well-reasoned prediction. You would probably imagine it maybe not be that good at keeping hordes in check. Right, I need to find one more quark Bosco to grab. But I'd be thinking, probably gonna have to just grab that one anyway. All those three, gonna have to bring them back before we find the final quark. This is debilitating. Okay. Bosco, you get one. I will juggle two, because I can do that. Not if one goes all the way back down, though. Common misconception about point extraction. That was my Mandarin impression, or you know, fake Mandarin impression. True fact. True Little known fact about fortune cookies. Guess I could have shielded. I could have shielded. But I chose against self-preservation. For the good of the hive. For the... Okay. This is getting hairy in a way that I did not account for. Did not think it was going to go this way at all. Nitra.
Get to work.
Okay, Nitra's good.
Reloaded. Bosco, mine it.
Nitra is good, but we need an Quark. Just one, and I'll just have Bosco mine it and take it to the mine head. Very simple.
Oh man, this ain't what I signed up for.
Shit.
It's getting into all the nooks and crannies.
Actually had to use the zip line to do that. That's crazy. And I'm still gonna need like one sliver of Nitra to... Okay, that's fine. Got some over there. Shit. Okay, okay.
And here I just polish my boots.
Jesus Christ. Roger, roger. Mate, start firing. What the hell? That Warden's hiding his weak point. Don't like that. It's fine, we can get through. Need to go somewhere I haven't been. Okay, that way. Okay, there it is. That was much closer. That's actually annoyingly close, but fine. Take it and we'll leave. That was intense.
Come here, you flying tin can.
Well done, you got them all. Get the launch controls, return to my head, we'll send in the escape pod.
Yeah, I feel like plasma burst missiles, I'm not really used to it being that like quick at dealing with like a dense crowd of enemies because you kind of have to sort of drag it through more of them. But I genuinely think the AoE size and the stun is just sort of actually making them... It's actually way better than I realised. I think you definitely want that radius over just more ammo. We clearly don't need more ammo. Our ammo has lasted even up till the worst points of this. So... I'm happy with that. I don't necessarily recommend this secondary though. I think you could easily go for lead spray. I think this thing has such good crowd control. Something like lead spray is sort of fine. Triple tech chambers, maybe even elephant rounds. Obviously I didn't want to use triple tech because that would be doubling up on the coil gun, which I don't do.
Born ready.
What is this? What are you doing? Get out the floor. Oh my god. I didn't want to have to shoot you not in your weak point, but you forced my hand.
It's hard to move.
Your ride home is on the way. Drop pod inbound.
Where is it? That way. Okay. Because I need to... this has actually been taking way too long. I did not necessarily want to have it go this long on my last day off. Oh well.
Drop pod has landed and is ready for takeoff.
I don't know why I'm complaining about anything work related. I cannot. I've also... I should not be complaining at all. It's ridiculous. Ooh. Ooh. What do you want? Ow!
Why just put up a
Eh. See? Still works.
Come and get me, you disgusting bug.
Okay.
Good work. We're pulling you back in.
Even though that all took longer than I would have liked, I hope you can still see how Plasma Bursters is a relatively strong thing. It's great. It's great. I really highly recommend it. I think when I'm thinking about sort of like ratings and whatnot, yeah, you might say arbitrary, whatever. I like rating things. I don't know if I necessarily say S tier though. At least A, by the way, and probably high A too. But I don't know about S necessarily. It's just really good though, and I think it does just add on to the pile of just the Hurricane's very, very comprehensive and just very satisfyingly constructed overclock selection. Like it probably, I think it is probably the best in the game still, as overclock selections go. But yeah, that is going to be it for this episode of Overclock Showcase. If you enjoyed this, please make sure to like and subscribe. If you want to see more stuff like this and you want to stay on top of everything to Deep Rock and Roll Call, also make sure to click the notification bell. And as always, thank you to our one and only one level member, Fox Scoot. You keep the lights on. And now it's time to find out next week's. Of course, right at the beginning, I was looking at the sludge pump. That is next week's weapon. So if you haven't seen this part of the video before, basically what I do is I number the overclocks from left to right, top to bottom, which means you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Of course, we leave out numbers 7 and 5 and 1, all done before. The rest of them, though, are in the Wheel of Fortune. There it is, isn't it beautiful? And this will decide which overclock we do. No preference here, by the way. Like, genuinely, I like all of these. I actually know it's not true. I don't like Sludge Blast, but I probably should be forced to use it. Why did I include number 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I should have only had 2, 3, 4, and 5. It's 6 that I've already done, not 5. So that's fine. But we got 4, which is, as it happens. Hold on, get rid of that. As it happens, number 4 is Sludge Blast. Who am I going to put this on? Preliminarily. Oh, you've already got it. So there you go. Sludge Blast next week. I'm going to have to definitely buckle up for that. and figure out how I'm going to use that thing, because it's not my MO. I'm not a Sludge Buzz guy at all. But yeah, that's it. That'll be next week. So once again, thank you for watching. Now it's time to have our company what is it? I don't know. Mandated. There's the word, mandated. Planets and Burst and Missiles themed drink. And I already know what it's going to be. Oh god, I haven't looked at the accessory shop screen in fucking ages now. That's so weird. But yeah, I know what it's going to be. Black Reach Blonde. That's Burning Love. Alright, I guess we'll take both.
You know, you're not being paid by the hour. Get to work.
Come on, I'm going to be burning while dancing. Let's do it.
Black rates blonde. Nothing will stop us now.
Pardon me. Sorry.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It burns. It burns. Oh yeah.
Oh, I'm not actually dancing. No, I am dancing, but it's not playing music because it got overridden by, I guess, by the bar music. Alright, that's enough for that. I'll see you next time.